Hey, welcome to another podcast of Law Enforcement Unconventional with your host, Robert Scally, and our real-life shield maiden,
Wendy Schkalmir, coming to you from the top of Bunker Hill.
Our show is dedicated towards assisting law enforcement in special operations to include military, rescue, first responders, and to all others who are trying to help protect our brave men and women in blue. Each week, we're going to bring you an unconventional tip, tool, tactic, or training from around the country. Please sit back, listen to our show, and enjoy yourself. Thank you. And welcome back to the show. Okay, Wendy, want to talk about our guest today?
Yes, we have Officer Ayam, who attended one of our training classes a couple of years ago. Thank you for coming, Ayam. How are you today?
Good. How you doing?
We're doing
Thank you for
awesome.
having me on.
Yes, and we're really glad that you're here. Now, let's tell everybody that's listening to, we have a lot of listeners, actually. We've been doing our what do they call that? Analytics. And the new thing, analytics. So this show's going to go out to a lot of people, but let's talk about the first time that we met.
Oh, yeah, sure. That was, like Wendy said, a couple of years ago, my department brought you in to train us on your shield. And at the time, I was out working during a surveillance operation. And it was towards the tail end, so I get a phone call from one of my colleagues, a detective. And he said, "Hey, Ayam, can you, we're holding this training for the shield. Do you want to come?" And I wasn't going to come. I was like, "Yeah, no, thanks. I'm all set." Then he sent me a picture of the shield, and that made me even more like, "No, I'm definitely not coming to this freaking training." I was like, "What the hell is this thing?" So eventually I ended up deciding to go down there and to check it out. And after I met you and we talked for a little bit and you know, the class started rolling, kind of like the light bulb went off, you know, because when I first walked in there, I wasn't really engaging you that much.
At all.
What the hell is that?
Crossed arms in the back of the room. Why am I here?
Yeah, we're in the Shark Tank and that happens. And and then what happened after that?
Quickly clicked. And that's exactly what I can use the shield for.
Okay, before we get into that stuff, let's talk, and I know you don't like to do this, but I'm going to force you to do this. You do not like to talk about yourself.
No, I don't.
But you know what? In order for the audience to know who they're dealing with, because we have a lot of police officers that are listening, and we want to tell them your background and, you know, who you are and what you do. So can you give us a little bio?
Yeah, all right. It's probably going to be very brief, but I was born in Monrovia, Liberia, and in the early 80s, while living there, Civil War broke out, so my family had to get up and go. The reason why I was born in Africa, actually, is because my dad had a business down there. So my family's originally from Lebanon, so we went to Lebanon. Civil War still happening there.
I mean, the two hot spots of the world back in that time.
Yeah, exactly. And then we finally made our way to the U.S. in like 1988, 89 era. So that's Then I went through the schools and I got I kind of like a culture shock a little bit when I first came because like in Lebanon, I remember distinctly artillery shells hitting the side of the mountain near my village. And soldiers running around. I mean, I remember some of the fighting in Africa.
How old were you then, Ayam, when you saw that?
I was like 5, 6 years old.
Wow.
And then you go to Lebanon, which is another hot spot, and you see. Yeah. So you grow up watching artillery rounds hit the mountains. And fighting, and then you come to America, exactly. and then what did you do? So as I grew up. In America, I joined the army and I get sent to Iraq. And go to Iraq.
Yeah.
So it's not like you had enough of it growing up, but you join the military and you go to Iraq, and then after you leave Iraq and you come back home, and then what?
So after I leave Iraq, come back home, and eventually I get into policing. I started off in 2007, and that's when I became a cop.
And you've done a lot of it. You've done a lot of different types of law enforcement.
Yeah, so I started my career in patrol division, and then as I moved along, I went into plainclothes unit, into a detective. I was part of a federal task force, do a lot of undercover work around narcotics. I'm also on the SWAT team. And that's enough about me.
You know, I know we hate to do that. I'm just kind of the same way, and it's kind of like trying to be the quiet professional. But in order for people to know who you are and what you do, because we're going to have a really good conversation, and because you've been very active. I see you on the newspaper. I read your publications that are nationally done, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But also, getting back to the shields, like I've seen you on newspapers in this area during some pretty well-known raids. And can you talk about that?
Yeah. So primarily on the SWAT team, I'm the shield guy because I'm this big guy that can handle, I guess, carrying the 50-pound shield for a while. But but what I do is I have both shields, your shield and my regular big shield. And it's great. It's great to have both. And the reason why is the big shield is great for cover approaching the main entryway. Same thing with like big hallways, whatever. Big shield's great, but the minute you start getting into enclosed spaces, that big shield is useless. It's more of a hassle than it is to be able to move quickly, because that's the whole name of the game with entries is, speed, surprise, violence, and action. And if you don't have the speed or any part of the formula, I'll call it, if you don't have any part of it, the mission's a failure.
Right. And, I find that interesting that you carry both. And they both come in handy. I mean, the big shield gets you to the door. The little shield will get you to the house at a quicker, faster op tempo. And we talk about that quite a bit. And tell everybody about, if you can talk about it, for instance, when you had to deploy the little shield. Or I don't even like saying little shield. Let's say vector shield, because it's a lot smaller than the conventional shield, but it's designed to protect the central line of the body, and it's large enough to protect the body. But again, it's small enough that you can transition into your tools or use it dynamically to engage threat at different angles. So you carry both of them. You carry the vector and you carry the big SWAT shields. So can you give us an example of how you may have deployed it on operations?
Sure. So so one of them is one of the operations is a motor vehicle takedown, and usually that's done when a target is obviously in a car, and we follow them and we end up pinning them and getting them. So I've deployed it during that because usually that's got to be a very rapid, dynamic type thing. Because again, you got to sort of overwhelming the target with all sorts of stimulus. So I used the smaller shield and or your shield, vector shield, approaching a car where the driver, his eyes was fixated on the shields, not so much me really, because it kind of confused him. He had no idea what was this shield. He probably didn't even think it was a shield.
That's the dazzle pattern that disorients him.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a dazzle pattern, and I've actually, made was able to secure that driver with ballistic protection between me and the driver. That way, should he fire at me, I'm wearing a vest, but you know what? That shield protects me better because the impact is going to the shield, not to my vest. And it when I got him out and everything, I mean, the guy was so confused about what the heck was around my arm. It was actually pretty funny to see his reaction.
And you can just let your arm go if you want to let go of it. It's got a 3-point retention system.
Oh yeah.
But if you just want to let it slide off your arm, you can let it slide off your arm. You're not strapped into it.
No. That's why I have it slung around me. That way, when I transition between big shield and little shield, all I got to do, it's a quick transition. It's not it's nothing slow, nothing that would really slow me down that much. And the other operation that I've done is a raid on house, and the door, when we made entry, the frame of the door hit the banister of the stairway that leads upstairs, and I couldn't get in because big shield was too big, and I only had a narrow hole to go through. So we called it a failed breach. But what that means is the rest of the team goes, and usually 2-3 guys stay at the primary entry door just for cover. So I see the bad guy up the stairs, and you could tell he's ducking in and out, sort of. You see half his body isn't shown, anything like that. I end up dropping the shield, taking the little shield, and going right up, right at the bottom of the stairs. He knew I had him at that point, and what he ended up having in his hand was a 357 Magnum. And me being stuck in that fatal funnel, I didn't like, obviously, because it wasn't a good spot for me to be in. And the vector shield got me through the door.
We hear that an incredible situation. I mean, how many people can go through a situation like that and come out and live to talk about it?
Yeah.
The thing that we hear when we travel across the United States is that sometimes entry officers, when they're entering into a situation like that, may have to make a decision, and they end up leaving their shield. They can't get into a narrower position up a set of stairs or something. We've had that happen in New York City, right? We've talked about to some of the people, they say the same thing. They get into a situation and it becomes very narrow. A lot of clothing, a lot of food carts, push carts.
God.
Right?
Oh my God! I talk to cops, everywhere, and it's funny. It's always the same thing. When we make entries, we're too big already going into these places because the hallways are very tiny. Like you said, clothing everywhere. It's a mess. And actually, one entry I did, I had to do entry into a trailer. I didn't even use my regular shield. I used your vector shield because one, it's a trailer. It's tiny. So the big shield wouldn't do it. So the vector shield was what I took in.
And you moved in quick and fast.
Oh, yeah, very fast. In and very fast.
And let me just tell the audience, everybody listening, you're not a little dude. Listen, this isn't a Toyota. This is a Winnebago. This is, he gets up every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning to lift weights and to do like these incredible squats where the bars are bending. And he's tatted up and, he's coming through the door to get you, to the bad people out there that come in the door to get you. This is exactly the person you want coming through that door.
Yeah,
and you're humble about it too.
Yeah, I know. But my team members made a joke once when we did an entry, and I was engaging with the bad guy and had him drop and all that stuff. And my number 2 and 3 guy, when the TL was asking, "Oh, okay, what did you guys see when we're doing the AAR?" And they're like, we couldn't see past Ayam's shoulders. like, I have no idea. All we knew is he was yelling at someone.
Okay, but listen, tell the audience why you train.
Well, I train, my philosophy on training, because one, the job that I do, and a lot of people rely on me, and same thing with my team. My team rely on me to be in the best shape as I expect them to be in their best shape. And I do it also for that final fight. One of these days in law enforcement, in your career, at some point as a cop, if you don't think it will never happen, then you're in the wrong profession. One of these days, you're going to get into that fight. And that fight is going to determine whether you live or die. And how you train is going to be dependent on it.
That's so interesting. I love your philosophy, and also you're a writer. You write for a national publication.
Yeah, I write for Havoc Journal. I think I have over 30 articles, mostly centered around law enforcement and veteran issues. But mostly I write, the internal and external struggles of law enforcement. But
you're pretty straight up about it, and you do talk a lot about unconventional approaches and new ways of thinking about things and honesty and we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, I've hurt some feelings over the interwebs, which is funny.
Wendy does that every day. Well, she does it when somebody says something about the shield or says something. Listen, let me explain to everybody out there listening. She's coming for you. The shield maiden is coming for you, and it's going to. And again, go ahead, Wendy.
I'm not afraid to respond to any criticism we get. We welcome criticism. If you have a question or something about anything that we're doing, we welcome it. We do get a lot of keyboard warriors, and that has been the situation lately due to some media that was put out there that incorrectly showed the training that we do. We have people reaching out, and actually we've had a lot of good results from it because some officers have reached out and gotten over the ego part and, said, hey, what are you guys doing? Can it help me? And we love that. We love to be able to explain what it is we do. We do get some that are closed-minded and they don't want to hear it. I mean, from the inside, you can explain maybe kind of the closed-mindedness, why you didn't want to attain our training, and then what happened that changed your mind.
So I mean, when I went in again, it was one of those days I'm just closed-minded. I was just not in the mood to learn about this tiny little shield and what I can do with it and all that. But kind of when I started talking to Bobby, and when Bobby started going through the class, it just clicked on the amount of times I could have used a shield like that. With all the situations that I've dealt with and all that. And it just like dawned on me. And then the more I spoke with Bobby, the more I realized that this is a great tool. It's a tool in the toolbox, right? It's not the only tool, and it's
not for every situation.
It's not for every, exactly. And the way I think a lot of people, a lot of officers see it, they think that you're trying to reinvent the wheel or do something that doesn't make any sense, which to me, it made perfect sense after talking to you for a little bit about it and the reasoning behind why you created that shield. And it made perfect sense to me when I started to think back about different situations I was in and where the shield would have been very handy.
I got to say this, like, you don't know what you don't know. And I didn't mean to insult anybody before. Like, I had an officer one time, or a sheriff deputy. He said, we're talking about tactics. And I said, well, I don't think you're going to understand these tactics. And he looked and he said, well, you don't know what I know, or blah, 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 went on. And my point was that most of the tactics that I'm teaching for the first hour is Spartans, Romans, and Vikings. So we're teaching ancient shield tactics that have been used on the battlefield for thousands and thousands of years.
Used successfully for thousands of years.
To keep people safe. And again, the spears that you all are facing today and the arrows that you're facing are the tips of a bullet.
Yeah, exactly.
And we have to build products that stop that. And I ask officers, what do you have in your car right now that will stop 7.62 or 5.56? And the answer is nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
So I mean, we have Wendy fighting people on Facebook, because we're so passionate about the product, but we're trying to explain, we're trying to provide multi-layers of armor to keep an officer safe so they can do their job. Patrol officers, what do they have right now when they step outside that vehicle? Nothing. Yeah. They have a gun, and are they going to use it? Most officers don't go to their weapon.
No.
They talk people down. We only hear about those fragmented situations, but every day, how many officers are going out there and doing hands-on and as far as talking and de-escalating and bringing things down? And we're going to talk about de-escalation, but not right now yet, because Wendy's giving me the idea. But you guys are out there every single day, so we're trying to bring new tools onto your reality.
It's like you guys were talking about earlier. 1 million times a day, the public comes in contact with law enforcement. 1 million times a day.
What's the stats on that?
That's the average. About a million contacts a day. I mean, it's even some estimate 3 to 3.5 million.
Law enforcement contacts.
Law enforcement contacts. That's just pulling you over, or even just saying hi, or investigating. And again, they like to paint that where this rogue officers everywhere out shooting and killing everybody, where the lethal force that we used is so tiny compared to the amount. I mean, I've gone into I don't know how many times I've gone from my gun, where it is in fact a lethal deadly situation, and I talk the individual down, to drop the knife or the bat or whatever. And I put my gun away because now I've diffused the situation. I brought it, I scaled it back down, and I got the help. And most of the time, these people are what we call EDPs, so emotionally disturbed persons, right? They're some of the most volatile, unpredictable ones. So,
speaking about that, and not cutting you off, but you actually attended that training, and a lot of people don't know this about you, but you go from department to department, as do quite a few other officers, training how to use this vector because of all your experience deploying it. I mean, reality deploying it.
Yeah.
But you were there in North Carolina. You were there with one of our departments when they wrote this article, and it was actually not what we were training at all, because the reporters don't know what they don't know. It's not like they're tactically proficient. They're just looking at something from the outside, and they're giving their view on that. And then we have officers all across the United States, saying things on some publications. Well, we're teaching this, we're teaching that. Does anything that we teach violate a department's SOPs?
No, nothing that you guys do. Like I said, it's just another tool in the toolbox, that you guys provide, that your company provides. And that's all I see it as. And you don't go in there and change tactics or whatever. We just build off it as cops, right? Now I have this new shield. So now I got to think of different ways of applying them to the tactics I already know, and even develop newer tactics myself.
And you do. You actually do almost daily.
Yes.
I mean, daily after action reports come in. Hey, what about this? What about that? We have offices in Oregon. We have offices in Texas and Massachusetts, and you're one of the big advocates. Hey, what about this? Or we're doing it this way. And if you see something that you don't like, you're the first one to bring it. And we're not sensitive about that. We don't get all butthurt because someone's saying, hey, I don't like the way you did this, or I don't like the color. Like we don't. I want those. I want you to get on the phone and call me directly, or call Wendy directly, right? And say what you mean. Give me an after action report if you're using the shield. But if you're not using it, really, what do you have to talk about?
No, I know. That's the thing. If you don't use a certain piece of equipment for what you do, policing, whatever it is, then to me you don't have a say as to what this tool actually is for. You didn't even give it a chance. And me, I always say one great thing about you is I can call you anytime. Even after an op at 6:30 in the morning, where it's still fresh in my mind, I give you a call, you pick up, and we talk through it.
Because it's important to us. You know that. You've driven thousands of miles to go into departments you don't even know. You don't even personally know. To make sure that your brothers and sisters in law enforcement are protected, and we can bring them some really good tools, tactics, and training for real life experience from people who are actually using the products out in the field, and then give an after action report and saying, hey, this is what's going on. And I've watched you teach the class. I've seen you do this. We've had that one instance with that one department where one of your friends was shot in the head.
Yep.
And again, he was doing his job. And what did the vector wasn't available to him.
No. And even to this day, that thing goes with him wherever he goes, and his stories are, it's any, I don't like saying routine traffic stop or routine entry. There's no such thing as routine, but it was something, it's a peek approach, right? So the door opened a little bit because there was a chain on it, and he peeked in and got shot in the head. And that's something we all always do, just kind of quick peek to see if anyone's in a room or whatever. But now he uses the shield as part of his peak approach.
And you know what that makes it, everything we build was just serial numbered, but we know what it's being built for, and we take that so seriously. We know that the only thing between an officer and their ability to live could be what the product that we build.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's kind of what I always say. I've told you, during homicide investigations, I'll walk around with the shield slung and interview and talking to people, and at least I have it there ready to go in a moment's notice. Because again, like I always say, as detectives and investigators and some street crimes types units, we don't wear vests, so we don't really have ballistic protection. And the same thing I tell you when I'm out there doing surveillance in a bad area of the city, and I'm not wearing any armor. I'm wearing normal clothes, street clothes, and all that. But
with no ballistic protection,
nothing.
No vest, nothing.
No vest. Everything's hidden. And the only thing I have with me is the vector shield. I have it next to me on the passenger seat, depending on where I am. Sometimes I already have it on, right? Because I can drive with. Let me put it this way: you got to practice. You always got to train. So I figured out a way where I have the shield on, and I'm just looking around the neighborhood, and at least I can bring it up right away if something was to go down.
And we talk about that during training, the flinch response, true time, false time, Hick's law.
Yep.
There's a lot of science that we bring to it. So it's not just tactics. There's an explanation. You and I talk about this all the time. You ready? The reason why.
Yeah. And,
Right.
and that's the thing is the reason why.
The reason why. And again, when I read your publications, your national publications, I think the same thing. You're not just talking or being a keyboard commando. You're answering the reason why.
Yeah. And not too many people know the reason why, especially in policing. We've been such a enclosed type profession where, there's a lot of stuff we do that is sensitive and it involves a lot of things. But one thing that we don't do a great job in is answering the question why.
Interesting.
So that's one thing we need to be better at. But I think I've said this before. One thing I've always hated is this TikTok phenomena of doing stupid police sing-alongs and stuff like that. And I'm just like, come on, guys. Like,
right.
we got a job to do out here. We're not entertainment.
Does that mean we shouldn't have Bobby making a TikTok video?
Oh, I think you should. I think Bobby should.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Friendly, making a TikTok. Someone says something, I'm on the phone with them, and I'm not even being aggressive. It's like I want to answer their question. Imagine saying something, and we're going to pick the phone up. We're going to call you, and we want to have this conversation because I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know, is there something we can make better? Is there something that you're seeing that we're missing? I like constructive criticism, right? I like someone, but bring the facts. Bring like when you do an after action report, like you get in there and you're like, and one thing we talk about, like mission failure, right? Mission failure. Yeah. And even though the mission is successful, that you could have missed something. And again, in your book, because you're such a perfectionist, it's mission failure.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing to me, that speed, surprise, balance of action, and resolve, right? The four parts of the formula for me. And you miss any one of those, to me, a mission failure. I mean, for example, if you do a car takedown and the guy broke containment, but you catch him 20 minutes later, to me, the mission, the op was a success, but the mission was a failure because we didn't jump fast enough or something happened.
And so what do you do? Do you do like you back plan it, but you at least, it's big boy rules where someone made a mistake, even though the mission was a success, somebody made a mistake, but you make sure that mistake never happens again. And we do the same thing with the shield. If someone's seeing something that we're not seeing, then we want to know.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think one time me and you were talking, and after I did an entry and I was going up a fire escape, and a couple times the vector shield, dinged off the ladder. So we came up with a better way to carry it. And so stuff like that where I here's the thing, this thing, kind of like my weapon, is my lifeline, right? So I want to make sure that the equipment works right and works to my advantage. And like I always say, vector shield is not the only thing in my toolbox. I have several other things.
Like a Swiss,
but vector shield.
Your toolbox is a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's best idea wins. We've had a couple officers ask where our training come from. Our training actually comes from officers in the field in actual situations. It's not something we make up. It comes from you guys.
Yeah.
Lessons learned.
And that's true. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. We have to do lessons learned, good or bad. Right. I mean, that's the whole idea of an AAR, and we have to talk about these things. That's the only way we'll learn.
And it's painful. I mean, we talk about an officer being killed, walking back to their patrol car. Well, we have to devise a way to get back, keep the shield between you and the threat, walk back to your patrol car. And if you have to transition to a tool, you are capable of doing that. It's not. And again, you're a pretty big dude. You are. I mean, I know they can't see you right now, but he's not the type of guy that you would want to have coming to get you. So
I'm a gentle guy.
He's tattooed it up, and and he'll scare the hell out of you. But the thing about that is that you do undercover work, right? You've done undercover work, and can you tell the listeners about the time you did the undercover work with the shield and the backpack?
Oh yeah, so I've taken the shield during the protests, riots that have been going across the country. It came to my city, so obviously everybody in the police department were activated, all that stuff. And I was tasked to be amongst the crowd, me and a couple other guys, but we were separate, where we were, separate areas of the city. So I was thinking, I was wearing like a tank top, shorts, and I'm like, all right, this is obviously no protection. If something was to go down, I need some sort of ballistic protection. Can't wear a vest because that defeats the purpose of being undercover. So I ended up putting the shield in a regular school backpack, and it fit perfectly. And so I was walking around this protest, this riot, and I had ballistic protection. That way, if something was to happen, I can quickly deploy the shield.
That's awesome. It carries in a roller bag, too. You can carry it in a computer bag. I've carried up to 3 in a computer roller bag and put it in the cabin of an airplane.
Yeah. So
anywhere.
Yes.
Well, I was going to say the versatility of why we build what we do, and this isn't a pitch, but the shield's got a lifetime. We do a lifetime warranty on the shield. The straps have to be replaced, every 5 or 10 years, whatever they are, whenever you wear the straps out. But the shield itself, we're basically working ourselves out of a job. But as long as we know that law enforcement, we're not going to come back in 5 years and say, hey, by the way, we want to sell you something else.
Well, that's the thing. Like the big shield that I had has a 5-year shelf life, right? So.
And how much was that large shield?
Oh my God, it was almost $4,000 or $5,000, somewhere around there.
Right.
But now it's coming to a time where now we got to switch it out because the expiration date's on there. So that's another thing I like about Vector Shield is it's lifetime. I don't have to worry about every 5 years calling you guys up to give me a new shield.
And you worked the hell out of it. In the last video we got from you was smashing through a door.
Oh yeah. I mean, I told you, I said, listen, I'm going to put this thing through the ringer, and you said, hey, use it for whatever, beat the shit out of it. That's what it's for. And you could tell that my shield is starting to take some mileage, which is good.
Yeah, we got to replace the cover. We have to put new covers on for you. When do you going to say something?
Actually, I was going to say the dazzle pattern on the shield, actually, because we do a lot of simunitions, force on force with SWAT and stuff like that, and you see that officers are aiming for that dazzle pattern,
which is awesome.
Because that's what they're focusing on.
Because where the eye goes, so does the bullet. So does the bullet. So in that Wendy, I know she's going to jump in there and say about the UTMs and SIMs that wasn't
what I was going to say, but I can say that.
Go ahead, say it.
We encourage everyone to use force on force. Take these to the shoot houses. Use your SIMs on them. They need to be used. It will not void the warranty. It doesn't even scratch or mar the shield. It will make the pretty cover probably not so pretty,
which she gets upset about.
Don't ruin the pretty covers, but your UTM's not going to do anything to it.
Listen, Wendy's she has that Viking blood in her, and she's a lot bigger than she's stronger than most people think.
I'm a fighter, and I love law enforcement, and I don't care who it is or what it is. I know what we do works, and I will fight tooth and nail to make sure. Last time we saw you, she pulled your shield out of the 50 or 60 pound shield.
Oh, yeah, that 50-pound shield. Yeah, she carried it like it was.
Loves the big shield.
I had to go back and work out some more. Wendy's doing something right.
Don't skip leg day.
Yeah, exactly.
Pete, you hear that? You scrawny man.
So, do you know the good thing too is when you go undercover, I find this funny. You've been pulled over before, even by other police officers, not knowing who you were.
That's actually hysterical.
Oh yeah. No,
You're actually scary looking when you're undercover. You send me pictures, and I'm like, what the hell?
You rival Florida man.
I know Florida man got nothing on me.
That's so true. Oh my God.
That's what I tell people. It's like, I do so much. Like I have to switch my personality sometimes. I have to be gangster or do whatever. But that's kind of like the name of the game.
That's what the public doesn't realize. You guys still have wives and husbands and children. And we were just speaking to Pete from Texas today. And again, they were without power for 4 days in a snowstorm. He's out trying to help people. And tomorrow he has to go to a funeral for one of his brothers. So
it's too bad.
It's absolutely horrible that he's in the fight with us and he knows what we do works, and he'll be on the show.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you guys have a lot of support from other officers who've seen it, used it, and know what your shield's about. So these keyboard warriors, as we all call them, they don't know what they don't know. They just kind of feed into whatever BS is out there.
And, that's why we don't take offense to it, because they just don't know what they don't know. And on that note, we had a gentleman called Rowdy Rebel who messaged me through the Facebook. So Rowdy Rebel, this is to address your question or your statement. He said that the shield was stupid and that he could never see it being used as a patrol officer. What are your thoughts on that, Ayman?
Well, clearly he must not be a very active patrol officer to make a statement like that, or he's not unconventional thinking, right? I mean, that's an issue in law enforcement is the people have been taught only one way of doing things, let's say, and that's all they know. So, for example, with shields, we've been taught that the bigger the shield, the better it is, over and over again. And some shields weigh a bit much, like my shield weighs a bit much. But you introduce your shield, now it sends them into a tailspin. Like, what the hell?
Well, because people can use it. The average listen, to be honest with you, not everybody can handle a 50-pound shield all day long. It's just impossible for some people.
Yeah.
I mean,
most couldn't.
Most couldn't.
That's a lot of weight to carry around for a long time.
Yeah, in front of you while you're moving up a set of stairs through a building for an extended period of time. But you're right.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. I've gone up 6 flights of stairs with that 50-pound shield, and it sucked. It's like, yeah, I know I'm number one through the door, but goddamn, give me a minute to breathe, because the guys get there, the preachers get there, and they're already knocking the door down, and I haven't even caught my breath yet.
Well, and every time you use that, you come back and you'll say something like, you'll see it on operation. You'll say, hey, for the outside guys peeking through the window, we could use it for this, or.
Oh yeah. So that's the thing when we're doing porting windows or even basement windows, stuff like that. The Vector Shield's great because it's a small enough shield to get you to places that you could never get into. Same thing, attics and basements are some fatal funnels that I call because there's only one way in, one way out, whether it's up the stairs, down the stairs. But with attics, I mean, the bad guy has a lot more advantage than us because we're not facing the direction they're facing. When we're coming up to the attic, and we have to be very slow coming up because we usually get shot in the head. As we're making our way up the attic. So the shield's great because I'm able to kind of rotate around with the shield, kind of like a turret, where I have protection.
And, if you add up the square inches, and I've said this before, for the Vector Shield, the front plate, the back plate, and your Kevlar helmet, more per square inch protection than a full-size shield.
Oh, no, absolutely.
And it's mobile.
And it's mobile. Yeah. It's dynamic, and it'll go at different angles, and you can peek around corners and to different things. And I mean, you know what it is? It's just that I don't think a lot of people have, because we don't advertise our tactics.
Oh, you can't see it from a Facebook post.
Yeah. And again, people will assume that we're telling them, like, for instance, we had this one discussion about, when it comes to someone with a knife, deploy the Vector Shield only. No, we 100% don't teach that.
Exactly. And that was completely wrong.
Yeah. A knife is a deadly weapon and is treated by such or as such in our training.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing is have I dealt with people with knives? Absolutely. But again, as the media likes to put it out, it's like as if that's all we do is shoot to kill right away. And we don't even think about anything else or whatever. But in reality, we're diffusing situations every day. I mean, 1 to 3 million contacts a day. You think those 1 to 3 million contacts, every single one of them, force was used? Even I mean, it's even the deadly force. I mean, it's 0.0 something. I can't think of the exact number, but it is so minuscule that that's the only thing that the media is paying attention to, and that's it.
Interesting. The media doesn't lie.
Yeah.
Everybody in America I'll make that statement and people will say, yeah, he's right. I mean, do I listen to them? Listen, there's some good people with some good direction in the media that maybe they're trying to tell the actual facts about what's happening. But you know what the number one rule is? We have to keep our people that are keeping society safe.
Mm-hmm.
We got to keep them safe.
Well, you keep us safe. We're able again. It's that the shield to me gives the vector shield gives that combat pause, that momentary pause that is needed. So I'm sitting in a car eating lunch or whatever, get ambushed from the front, and I have the shield next to me. I put it right up. The shield catches 1-2 bullets. You know what? That gives me just enough time to transition to my deadly force weapon and just go, win the fight. Fight through that ambush, and that's what it's about.
And and again, it protects the public as much as it protects the officer. Because number one, the officer makes better decisions. But if an officer at any point, we're going to get to de-escalation in a second, but if an officer deploys a vector shield between them and the subject, and they're able to talk the subject down, right, or have that conversation, they're going to save lives.
Oh, absolutely. I mean that's the name of the game. In the end, where an emotionally disturbed person who wants to end it all, they're in a really bad spot, right? And we have to protect ourselves to protect others, because some of these emotionally disturbed people, they'll turn the knife gun on innocent people to try to whatever they want to do, whether kill themselves and kill others at the same time. It's a very volatile situation.
Well, speaking about that, I saw a video just recently. I'm going to bring it up of an officer shooting someone in the back. Now, wait, hold on. You can hear crickets, right? We hear the crickets. Officer shooting in the back. But you know what the reality was? The woman had an 8 to 10 inch boning knife. She turned to the partner and ran at the partner who was trying to they were trying to talk her down. Both officers. Yeah. And if you watch the whole video, this woman is completely out of control. And she's with two children, two little bitty children, maybe 3 or 5 years old. And she has a huge knife. She's talking to one officer, and then she turns to the second officer, and he doesn't even want to shoot her. He's got a taser on her. She turns and runs at him, and then the other officer responds and has to shoot this woman. And again, the first thing he's doing, which I was so incredible, is he's hugging the children and trying to keep the children safe away from this situation. And that's just it's just heart-wrenching to see that things like this happen every day, but why don't we hear the other end of the story, like what's going on? Our officers do not need to be defunded. They need additional tools, and because it's complex for them today. They're social workers, they're everything.
Here's the thing, right? For so long, policing, they've done this check and box training, right? So this checkbox training method is not the way to do it to train law enforcement. The training has to be real. The training has to be realistic, and it has to be, as society evolves, the training has to evolve too. So we can't keep doing the same training that we've always done. It doesn't work.
Well, that's why we're a huge advocate of, because you've been to the training, you do the training. It's all realistic. We bend baseball bats around the shield. We literally bend baseball bats.
Yeah, you do.
You've hit people in the head.
I've hit people. Yeah. I've been hit we've done brick. We do the full brick attacks. We've done, we've drawn blood. We've drawn blood and broke bones in training. And not that we're proud of it, but I've had the people say afterwards, I'd rather bleed in training than bleed out in the streets, where it could be life or death for me. If I'm attacked by a baseball bat, I know that I can stop this. I know that I'm not going to put my hands up, have my arms broken, and then somebody's going to kill me with a baseball bat.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100% correct. And that's the thing. That's why, I train for that final fight, because the more I bleed at training, the less I bleed in real life, right? So it's very important to do that. And again, when you have a new tool, you got to train with it and get used to it and modify it if needed. And that's something that, me and you talk about how I'm holding the shield and different ways, different applications I've used it in. And that's the thing. It's like, it has so many applications. Even to this day, I learn something different.
We do too, because you'll call up and you'll say, hey, what about this? And you've even been down to an Army fort with a unit we cannot name, and asking about the deployments and whether they're using it or not. I will not tell you, but the point is that you're out there showing people, if you have to go prone, if you have to get out of your vehicle, if you have to go up a set of stairs. I mean, it's so complex, the things that you men and women are facing out in the streets. It's mind-blowing to a lot of people because you literally have to keep changing your operational environment because you could be going to a medical call and then you lift and shift and now you're going to a domestic, then you lift and shift and you're going to something else. So, how do we give you the tools to do that job as a country?
That's exactly where, police have been given so many hats to wear that they're losing focus on their mission, so to speak, where it's becoming way too I guess if you want to call it identity crisis in policing, right? So because we have to do so many things, it goes back to me saying kind of, the police is the reflection of what society has become. So police have to deal with all these issues, and defunding is not the answer. Obviously, we're seeing it around the country.
It's failing miserably in the cities that are doing it. It's failing.
Yeah, failing horribly.
And they're putting they're putting the community at risk for not having well-trained officers or not having the proper tools and equipment to go out there and stop these savage people who are going to try to hurt people.
And on that note, every time our shield has been deployed, it de-escalated situations immediately. And whether you want to call it de-escalation, force reduction, whatever you want to call it, when an officer put our shield out, it stopped an aggressor. It stopped a situation from escalating every single time. Officers don't want to hurt civilians. They don't. You guys don't want to hurt people. You don't want to kill people.
No.
You need the proper equipment and training to be protected to do your jobs.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I always say is one of those things is, the equipment and the shield, having the shield with me, again, gives that moment of pause for somebody, who, whether it's ill intent or whatever it is, at least it gives me also a moment to decide which tool I'm going to, whether it's a taser, OC spray or whatever. And if it's deadly force, it's deadly force. It is what it is, but at
that moment of pause, it's the fact that you're protected behind something that will stop 7.62 handgun, shotgun, it will stop it. Your central line is protected.
That was another question that came up. They said from one of the photos, it looked like a false sense of security. What we do actually works.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, again, they took a picture and a snippet and spun it to however they wanted to spin it. False sense of protection. I was like, what I always say for everything that I do in policing, we have all these tools and everything. Most of it is false sense of protection. And you're just like, you know what, you got to do your job. And your shield, though, is not really so much as a false sense of protection. Because if I'm sitting in a car and eating or doing my reports or whatever, and somebody opens up on me just because I'm a cop. And that's the other thing that these riots and everything, to me, they have moved past rioting. To me, it's now an insurgency because you're throwing IEDs at police officers. You're trying to light them on fire. You're doing all kinds of stuff.
Those are not peaceful protesters.
No, those are not peaceful protesters. Those aren't even rioters. To me, that's an insurgency group, and that need to be dealt as such.
And you have a lot of experience dealing with that.
Well, here's the thing: you see what you see, right? I mean, sure, the Johnny Q public may not know or realize what's going on, but for those who have been there, done that, and seen and done, well, everyone knows what it is. Those types know what it is that we're seeing.
Right.
And we need more tools. We need more tools. And here's the thing: like I always say, I'm like, as cops, I don't need any more guns. Trust me, it's not about the guns. It's about other tools that we need, such as vector shields. It makes our job that much easier.
And it's something. How do we? It slows us down really when we get all these controversy. I would just wish the officers that would read stuff like that would contact us directly.
I have literally put our personal phone numbers on posts with thousands of officers, and probably 4 or 5 actually reached out directly and spoke to me. And when they did, they actually apologized publicly, and they now took it up the chain of command. So now we're being looked at by probably 15 or 20 departments now in just the past couple of days.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you'll always have the naysayers as the ones, like what's that, rebel guy or whatever.
Good, Wendy.
Rowdy Rebel.
Rowdy Rebel.
Rowdy Rebel. All right. Is he in Florida? Because
He's
I don't even know where he's from.
No, listen.
When I asked him for credentials, he went away. He said it was a use of force instructor somewhere, and then that was it. Rowdy Rebel. So there you go.
Rowdy Rebel. Okay. So somebody like him, to me, is one of those. I always split police departments down 80-20, right? 80% are there, and the 20% are the actual workers.
I've heard you say this in a room full of officers. I've watched you say this.
Yeah, you have. And what did they all do? They all nodded.
Yeah, they did.
They all agreed. Because I told them you right now in a room. How many cops were there? I'd say 15, 20?
Yeah.
And in a room with 15, 20, I told every single one of them, I bet you can name 2 officers or 3 officers in your squad that are just useless. And every single one of them laughed and nodded their head.
Well, so you have very high standards. You have very high standards because you're a worker. You're out there trying to serve and protect the public. You're out there doing your job literally around the clock.
Yep.
And
well, that's the way to be. To me, policing is a trade craft. It's not a job. It's an art to it. There's a method to it.
Interesting.
That's kind of something that I picked up over the years.
Well, we're going to talk about something that most police officers do not want to talk about. Wendy's smiling right now because she knows what it is. You ready? The word de-escalation.
Yeah,
right.
We all hate it.
Right. No, but it's a word, and I hear people say that, and again, I'm going to make the statement that Vector is shields. We are not about de-escalating the police officers. We're about de-escalating the violence being used against them. Yeah. And I agree with that. And again, as much as I hate de-escalation, because you can't
de-escalate someone who's hell bent on killing you.
No, I mean, example is that woman with that 10-inch knife. She already made up her mind what she wanted to do. There was no talking. I mean, the other one, Arizona in Phoenix, where that police sniper took out that guy at 30 yards when he was holding the baby with a gun to the baby's head. And it's like these types of situations. There's no such thing as de-escalation. It's already gone.
Some people won't de-escalate ever.
Some people won't. No, some people have made up their minds, and that's it. But again, though, that the stuff in Phoenix, the woman there with the knife and all that, those are the minority. The majority of the time, we're able to talk people down. The majority of the time, we're able to diffuse. I hate the word de-escalate. So diffuse. But
I know that I know there's good officers like even yourself. That when somebody gets physical and you have to get physical, the second it stops, it's over.
Oh, yeah. To me, yeah, exactly. It's done.
You say that to me all the time. You say, the second I have to go physical with somebody, but the moment I have them restrained or, in control, it goes down. It's done. Yeah,
that's it. I'm done. There, the game, we're done playing, so and I tell people that. I said, hey, listen, if you're a gentleman, I'll be a gentleman. And that's it. So there's no reason to continuously escalate somebody that you already have control of. I mean, officers, I know officers listening to this right now, they're going to laugh at this, is when I say you're sitting there, you de-escalated the situation and you got the person all calm and collected. Then you hear over the radio, one of your colleagues is coming down and you're already like, shit, this dude's about to light a fire. So those officers who who are shitty and will escalate a situation to the point where it's bad. So as officers, the good officers, we know how to talk people down. We know it takes time, it takes patience, it takes.
And you've done that a lot. You tell us a lot of different stories where you've actually de-escalated or whatever you want to call it, and not had to.
Wendy, it's like Bill down in Connecticut. We've gotten letters from officers who thanked us because barricaded subject. They couldn't get the big shield down there. They didn't have the big shield. Couldn't get it down the hallway. They had a small shield. Mm-hmm. They said they had the Vector. They moved into this narrow space, and he said, we didn't have to shoot him. Now, you think about how much of the public is being saved because to have a barrier between even the officer and the public to engage in conversation, because that officer does not know if a person's going to pull a knife out of their back pocket or pull a gun and make the attack on them, but at least to have a conversation, because the greatest tool in your tool belt, especially you, is your voice, talking someone down.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the thing that's kind of an issue with policing these days is the PlayStation generation, I'll call it, or Xbox generation, who all they've done is play video games over with the earbuds and all that crap, and they've lost that art of talking.
Mm-hmm. They don't have any social skills.
No social skills. No, they can't tell social cues. Like, you and me, Bobby. I mean, we see somebody blade off. We already know what that means.
Correct.
We can see the attack coming. If someone starts to clench their fist, we know what's coming.
Yeah, predatory signals. All the predatory signals will send you.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Because we've been in the schoolyard fist fighting.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
One too many times.
Right, and that's what people don't realize, that's the experience right there. How do you replicate that?
Yeah.
You really can't. I mean,
no, you can't.
You can't do that. Selection process. I don't know what it is. It's
Well, it's what even having a shield, right? Having a vector shield. And when I get hit, I have the shield again. That flinch response you always talk about. That flinch response where I almost got sucker punched, but guess what? The guy now broke his wrist because he hit the shield.
Right.
and that's his fault.
And they've asked us. They've said, "Hey, do you teach striking?" I said, "0 striking." I said, "We teach no striking. It's designed to use their force against themselves. If they punch an officer holding a vector, they're going to break their hand. But here's the deal: it's the harder they strike him, the worse." Yeah. And you know what? We had an officer in training that says, "Well, I don't think this is going to work." Blah blah blah. See, Wendy's already laughing, and then the sergeant said, "Oh, okay." And apparently, he broke his elbow. One of the instructors didn't do it on purpose, but this guy, we tell him, "Don't ramp it up because if you move too quick, his body parts will snap."
He didn't listen.
Didn't listen, and then he had to leave the class, and apparently had a injury to his elbow, like a major injury.
Geez.
Yeah, but the thing is, we train very real, and the stuff that you all come against, we do not advocate about de-escalation. We talk about diffusion. I even saying that word to some of the chiefs. Listen, you all are so well trained. Every officer I talk to is so well trained. When you talk about the use of force continuum, right? When you show your presence, listen. If you have an emotionally disturbed person and you can put a barrier between them and you, or even cordon them off between you and 2 or 3 other officers, and then have a discussion, you know what? It's a win-win for the public.
Oh, it's a huge win for the public.
Because you're going to be videotaped.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing with ages of videotaped and all that. Being videotaped is so normal now, but you have that barrier between you and that person. That person would either get distracted or realize that you do have protection, because here's the thing: a bulletproof vest is hidden, whether it's underneath our clothes or over our clothes,
or behind your back.
Behind our back.
You sling the vector behind your back, and people. You can have a conversation, and people cannot even see it.
No, and plenty of times I did that, doing knock and talks around neighborhoods where I had the vector shield slung and just talking to people, and just, again, that moment notice, if something was to go, at least I had that right away.
Wendy?
There was a technical question that one of the officers had asked: where in the use force continuum can you insert the vector shield?
Well, to me, you put it in between the passive aggressive to assaultive. Like it's in that in between area, because you know that this guy, he's not compliant, right? So you're not at the bottom of the use of force continuum. But if you were going to deploy it, it would be between those two, the passive aggressive to assaultive individuals, obviously deadly force, so anywhere from the yellow and on up.
And you may not have to deploy it at all. I mean, you may have someone who's compliant and
that was where the girl was thinking that we're telling them when and that they had to. It's up to the officer and the SOP.
Here's the thing, like I always say, the tools used for at a certain point, again, unconventionally thinking, right? When am I going to have the shield? Well, I know it's my discretion.
Yeah, some officers carry it all the time. It just is it's up to the officer in the department.
Exactly, and that's where the answer is. It's really up to you. If you feel threatened, well, yeah, then deploy the shield. Or if you're just talking to some person and everything's good to go and compliant, then you keep it slung. So you're all set.
Well, I know that when you talk to somebody, you're going to keep your hands in the high position, like what you guys call the interview stance.
Yeah.
So with the Vector Shield, like if you were having the interview stance, it sits comfortably up on your arm. You're not deploying it forward. You're actually talking to someone, and everyone thinks it's a road reflector. They really don't know what it is.
No, that's the thing. They have no idea.
Right, and the thing is that you have it, in the high ready position. You're not deploying it outward. You're just having a casual conversation. It's right. It's like you're putting your hands up high, and they're seeing that this road reflector, because it is reflective at nighttime. If you get out of your patrol car and you're on the side of a road approaching a car, it is highly, highly reflective. And plus, it's announcing who you are. We want the people looking at the dazzle pattern. And in future episodes, we're going to explain why we designed the dazzle pattern and where it came from. I wish I invented it, but it actually came from World War I, from the English and from a lot of scientists. And there's a lot more to it, right? And you've seen it, how it operates. We want people looking at the dazzle pattern and not the officer, whether they're going to transition to another tool. Could be the taser, it could be the pepper spray. It could be something to bring that force down.
Well, that's what I tell people is, when that shield's up and the person's distracted, you're almost concealing your own hands going to which tool you're going to. All right, you know what? This guy's like this. I'm going to take a taser. Or this guy's like this. I might OC spray him. So it gives you options.
Well, that's keeping what it is? The fact that you don't have to go to a higher force keeps the public protected in spite of themselves. How do we teach people that are listening, civilians especially, to be nice people? There's a lot of nice people out there, don't get me wrong.
They're just respectful. I don't care if you're nice or not, just respectful.
Just be respectful
and law-abiding.
Well, no, and we're not saying be 100% compliant if an officer walks. We're not telling you to do that. We're saying that people are out there doing their job. They could be looking for someone who just murdered 3 people. You may fit the description. Answer the question so they can get on to find the person.
Yeah, that reminds me of we had an issue last week in my city of a drive-by shooting, and they were looking for a particular car. So, we'll call this car a red Camry or whatever. And, what is an officer going to do, or any good officer is going to do, is every time you see a red Camry within that vicinity, you're going to be pulling it over to investigate who's the occupant.
And rightly so.
And the interaction with the police is not going to be friendly. Because I don't know who was in that car. I don't know where that person came from. So to me, it's going to be a felony stop, which means I'm out with my gun drawn. And you better not make any sudden movements type thing, because in my mind, you might be it, who I'm looking for. But through investigations, it turns out you're not. You're just coming from a soccer game or a football game or whatever. All right, have a nice day. Thanks for your cooperation. Now I can move on. Instead of getting my time wasted arguing back and forth with someone I don't know. Yeah, but it's not even me. How do I know that?
Right.
I don't know. Well, I feel insulted. Well, too bad for you. Have a nice day.
Well, is it because we live in a society of feelings now? Some people, we hear that on this. Some people are telling us, well, I feel that this ain't going to work. Come on. I don't want to hear about your feelings. Talk to people who are using it or out in the field actually doing it. We're very serious about what we do as a company. You know that. We're always trying to make it better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. And it shows every time I call you. Again, you're open to suggestions. You're open to new ideas, different ideas. And,
like you. And that, what that leads me into the next subject, which is tell the audience what you're doing and your projects that you're working on.
Oh, yeah. So I have a podcast called Project Sapient, and in this podcast, it has to do with my articles that I've written on Havoc Journal, and we dive deeper into them, right? We dive deeper into internal struggles of law enforcement within the profession, the external stuff in the profession, and I don't hold back, as you know, Bob.
Yeah, you don't. I admire that. I admire that.
Yeah, I call it what it is, and in the future, Project Sapient is going to kind of morph itself into a type of training where there's certain parts of policing that have gotten lost. And in translation, it's not tactics. It's not that at all. It's about thinking under pressure. And that's what it's about. And I talk about it in my podcast all the time, the warrior mindset and having a certain type of mindset to do the job.
Right.
And
warrior
that's what
mindset,
the
and just so the audience doesn't understand, it's not about going out to create war. It's
No.
Warriors
nothing
used
about
shields. They protected.
that. Correct.
They didn't
Yeah.
just
That
go out and kill
mindset, that
people.
mindset is truly about, staying hyper vigilant, protecting society,
Well,
thinking outside
society-
the box.
Yes, the thing is, though, with modern society and politicians, they go to demonize even the word warrior. I mean, there's some police states, there's some states that are getting rid of the word warrior in their curriculum for law enforcement, which is like, really, that's what it's come down to.
And what you're doing is you're looking for new tools. And the thing that you really answer to when we have this conversation is the why, the reason why.
Yeah. You have to. There has to be a reason why on what we do, and the public doesn't know what it doesn't know, so they don't know much about policing. They don't know much about what we deal with and what goes on. And part of it, I blame us for being that enclosed. But at the same time, the public needs to go out and interact with their police.
Right.
We're not these scary individuals that talking to us means you're automatically getting a ticket or going to jail.
Well, it's interesting that when I see an officer blade off, I know why they're blading off. They're inside the critical gap, and most people that aren't trained tactically or combatives or anything, they're going to see something on a video. And first thing they're going to think of is, because of his or her body position, is they're getting ready to shoot that person.
Yeah.
But they don't realize that they're getting into a preparatory stance because they may be getting someone running at them. And that happens all the time. And we have officers all across the country that stabbed and hit with objects and peeled with needles and blah, blah, blah. But, the camera doesn't tell the full extent of what you're looking at.
Oh, no, that's the thing with instinct, like you said, predatory instinct and the way humans are. And, we notice things. We see, notice, smell, hear, and, taking all that information in our minds is and our response to it, or our reflex to it, right? That's the thing we always talk about, reflex versus reaction, right? And that is a defensive reflex, if you want to call it, the blading off. Is again, like you said, preparing. Because something in our subconscious told us, oh, this dude's about to do something, and we automatically switch gears.
It's like being a linebacker, a lineman on a football team, right?
Yeah.
You're getting down for the play, and that's exactly you're setting up for the play. And so people look at that, and they've got kind of but we're going to talk about all that stuff in future broadcasts, and I'm so glad that you brought that up. Because again, I love having you. You and I could talk for hours on this stuff. And the reason why, because you weren't easy. I mean, when we first met, it wasn't like, hey buddy, let's up. It wasn't that relationship.
No, it was like, all right, I'm here wasting my time, and let's get this over with.
Right, and what, we appreciate that. And you know what, a majority of the officers who have been our biggest people that we're working with have been the same way. They were like, we just didn't see it.
Huge eye roll. Like, who are these salesmen?
Huge eye roll.
Well, what do they know about us?
Yeah. And that's the thing with policing, right? We're so used to salespeople coming up to us to sell us bullshit products, where we're already skeptical as a result.
And as well, you should be, though, because the products you're using are the difference between life and death.
It was the same way when I was in special.
When
I was in special forces, the same thing, guys. We always had people on the teams we had reps coming in to sell and show something, the latest and the greatest, and we found out that, hey, this isn't what we want. But
exactly.
Right, it's like, please, it's not even what we do. But but again, we're going to have future conversations, and we're going on an hour and 8 minutes because we could run this till 5 hours. But I know that you're taking your valuable day off from your family, and we really appreciate that. And we really appreciate everything that you guys do. And Project Sapien is a great podcast. And any police officer who is listening, we want you to tune into their podcast because, again, what we're doing with Law Enforcement Unconventional, we're looking on the outside in. We're talking about things that we're trying to bring in, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But what you're actually doing is talking about things that are happening inside.
Yeah, exactly. That's huge. We got to talk about it.
But you know what? That's how we solve a lot of the problems, right? We can't be keyboard warriors. What's his name? Rodney. What's his name?
Rowdy Rebel.
Rowdy Rebel. We can't be the keyboard warriors like him. Get on there and tell you my credentials and what I don't like. I feel this way. Like, I don't care. But you know what we have to do is have these tough conversations. And I love the thing about podcasting is we can do that now. I can listen to you and Pete on there, sitting there. I can actually watch us now, but I can, and I love that. You don't want to see Wendy's resting happy face. But
I got the many faces of Wendy.
Yes, the many faces of Wendy. Yeah, she's happy. That's all the same face. It's that. But that's what I mean is they should come on, and I want people to engage in these conversations. Please support us. Support Sapien, Project Sapien. Get on there, listen to them, send it out to your friends if you care about law enforcement. If you want to make a difference, right? This is how you show support. We're not asking for money. We're not asking for like a subscription to, hey, check us out for $9.99 a month.
Unless you want to donate. If you're a civilian or a company and want to donate shields to go or training to go into a department, that is a thing.
And there's, and again, we give away so much. We really do. And we're always trying. A lot. We make sure that if a department needs it, it gets it. We make sure we find a way to get it into them. And you know that. You've seen us. We drive 9,000 miles last month. And people are like, how do you do it? I said, well, I don't technically do it. Wendy does all the driving.
That is true. Fact is stranger than fiction.
I didn't have my glasses with me, so I couldn't make that. But you know what? We're lucky we have this communication, and you're right. The law enforcement are not the people that other people are looking at. Stop watching the news. Go down to your local department. Meet the men and women who are down there. Listen, they'd like to say hello. Hey, I'm here to say hello. I'm here to bring my children down. I want to work well. And guess what? If something's happening next door, you're going to call them. They're going to show up.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody's beating someone up out in front of your house or stealing something. Listen, you're going to call a stranger and they're going to come and they're going to protect you. And that's a great, listen, if Rome falls, everything falls.
Yeah, exactly.
But I really appreciate, thank you. And I really appreciate what you guys do. So that ends the show. And Wendy, anything you want to say?
Thank you, Ayman, very much to all law enforcement out there. Thank you.
Okay. We'll usually end it with what?
We ask you to please stay safe.
And stay protected. All right, that's the show, and thank you very much. Bye-bye.